Generally, lookup functions are some of the most useful functions in Excel. Lookup functions allow you to search for a specific value in a table or range of cells and return a corresponding value from that row or column. We will learn a series of lookup functions during this course, but we will start off with the most common one, VLOOKUP. This stands for vertical lookup. Let's say that we had to categorize the items in the leftmost table. However, the categorizations were contained in another area of the spreadsheet, specifically in this table to the right of our table. You could just copy and paste each one of them. For example, copy produce and paste it here. However, it would be much easier to use a function like VLOOKUP. To use VLOOKUP, first type equals VLOOKUP, and we see that Excel defines it as looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table, then returns a value in the same row from a column you specify. Okay, that's a little confusing, so let's open up our parentheses and click the Insert Function button to get a full explanation. We see that VLOOKUP takes in 4 major values. The first is the lookup value. The lookup value is basically what you're looking up. And so for our first example, what we're looking up is actually the item here. So I'm going to fill in the item by clicking and making a cell reference to B4. The next is the table array, which is the actual table that we're going to be searching inside of. The table that we're going to be searching inside of is the rightmost table. So if I wanted to put my argument in here, I would go ahead and move this to the right and then choose this table. This is the table that I'm searching in. In VLOOKUP, all columns are indexed starting from 1. So this first column here is index 1, and the second column is index 2. If you have a CS background, this is different than what you might be used to. Since I want to transfer my product categories from the right table to the left table, then I'm actually going to specify 2 as my column index number, because my product categories fall in the second column from the left. Finally, the range lookup is a little confusing, but I would mostly recommend putting false here. False should be used if your table array is not sorted, and true if it is sorted. However, it never hurts to write false, so I almost exclusively write false here. Okay, this looks good for our VLOOKUP. We should press OK and see what happens. We see that apples were correctly categorized as produce. Okay, this looks good, so I'm going to use the fill handle to click and drag it down. But wait a second, I'm getting all these NAs, which means something has broken. When I look in my formula, I see that the table array is moving down with my function. That's because we did not lock our table array. That's where our mistake came in. And so all we have to do is lock our table array by going into our formula and using the shortcut F4 on the first reference and F4 on the second reference. This should work now. So I'm going to hit enter and once again use the fill handle to click and drag it down. I always recommend that you double check a few values to make sure that your VLOOKUP worked correctly. Bread is correctly categorized as dry, and chicken breast is properly categorized as poultry. So it looks good to me. One other thing to note here. If I want to delete my reference table, all of the formulas from my lookup values will now throw an error. If we look into the function, we can see that this is because it is referencing a table that no longer exists. So let's Control Z to undo my deletion of the table. Before deleting the table, I need to copy my formulas and paste values. So I copy and either go to paste, paste values, or use the shortcut Alt-HVV. Now, when we look into these rows, we see that it's actually just the text, no longer the formulas. That's why it's important to copy and paste your values when you're done using your lookup function, because the lookup function could break if you change something. Now we can go ahead and delete this without trouble.